Thank you so much for joining me for today's episode on my podcast called Filling in the Gap of Your Business Exit. Today, we're going to talk about, are you really finding the right successor or successors for your business? I sold my business to three people that worked for me. I had to make sure they were the right people to run my company. Take a listen to this episode and see what you think about your plan. Finding a successor for your business involves careful consideration and evaluation. If you're like me and you want to sell your business to people that work for you, or maybe even people that, or a person that does not work for you, maybe they are outside your business. I have a friend that sold her business to someone that she knew in the industry. He had worked for a larger company and wanted to go out on his own. She was just kind of thinking about selling her business, and he approached her and asked if maybe she would be interested in a partner, not realizing that she was actually thinking about selling the business. So they had a few conversations and determined that he would take over her business. So she knew him for a long time and knew his character. He knew the business, and but there were some things that she did not know about him. She went a little blindly into it, and it's worked out for them. So that's perfect. But I wanted to give you some points that I encountered as I was selling my business to three of my employees. So the first evaluation I did was, do they have the skills and the experience to be in the business? I've seen customers of ours do this, that they sell to people or someone who doesn't have any experience in their industry. Years ago, we had a customer that was is a manufacturer, and they sold their business to a local CPA. Well, he didn't know anything about that business. And it turned out fine. But the first few years, he really struggled because he didn't know the business. He knew the business from the accounting side and the tax side of it and kind of knew it, but didn't really know all he was stepping into. It worked out. He had to rely on other people, so it worked out fine. But when it happened, I thought, oh no, how can you buy a business that you don't know anything about, especially a manufacturing business? So skills and experience are something that I looked for when I sold my business to my employees. The second one was leadership abilities. So I had three people that I sold my business to, three employees. One of them had been there for 20 years. So we were a small business, and he had never really gotten any leadership training, I have to admit. He really didn't. I mean, he watched me, but that was all he really had. The two other people had had experience in other jobs of leadership. But not to the degree of leadership of owning a company. So that was part of the thing that we had to work on, that we had to figure out, how were we going to get them up to speed on leadership. So that was one of the things also. So they came in with, one of them came in with no leadership training or experience, and the other two had some, but not at that level. So we had to work through the leadership abilities there. I felt like they had the capability to do it. That's the other piece of it, is that, do they have the capability to do it? And I'll tell you, we had a fourth person. So I had sold my business to three people that worked for me. We had a fourth person who we felt like just did not have the capability to lead people and to have people respect them and to own the company. So we exited that person off the team. The other big thing that was really important to me, because I wanted a legacy, I wanted to be able to look back and say, I started that, they took it over, doing a great job. The employees are doing really well. So having my same core values was extremely important to me. One of the first things we did when we decided to bring the other three people in as leaders first and then owners of the business was to set our core values. Those core values came from basically from me and how I had led the company up to that point. And we set those core values as a company. And at that time, we had 18 employees. When I sold the business, we had 35 employees. So it had grown under their leadership as well as mine. But the core values have always been the thing that stood the ground. Everything was based on the core values. So you have to have people that understand that and have that same core value is really important. One of the other things is, and for me, this was not a big piece of it, but it is on the checklist, is financial capability. I had a customer years ago that sold their business to someone who was not financially sound, and he didn't really know it. So apparently his personal finances and things were a train wreck. Well, that kind of bled over into the business because this business owner was financing the sale, and he didn't do enough due diligence on this person. And the customer of ours that was selling the business had to come back in the business because the guy could not make the payments. He was taking the money out of the company, but because he needed it personally and not making the payments. So financial is another piece of it that I would say to look at, especially if you don't know the people as well. You might want to look at it. But we did look at that. I talked to each one of the guys and said, are you going to be able to do this? Is your family comfortable with this? So that's a consideration too. Commitment and passion. That was one that was like a no-go for me. You got to be committed. You got to be committed to the company. You got to be committed to what it means to be a business owner. And we all know, I mean, I was there, is 24/7, 365. You take a vacation. Okay, I take a vacation, but it never leaves my mind. Even when I got into years. I owned the business for 31 years, but even as I had more experienced employees and things, and even when the guys that bought my business took over as leaders, it still was on my mind because I was the one who ultimately everything rolled down to me. So it is a 24/7, 365, and you got to make sure that uh, people understand that. It's interesting, and I'm sure you've seen this too, is people look at you and say, "Oh, you're so successful," and you've done all these things, and you may have a lot of things too. But what they don't see is that underneath of what that took to get there. The blood, sweat, and tears, the stress, the sleepless nights, the drill, the whole thing. And so you got to make sure that the people who are buying your business are as committed to it as you are. And then also, especially if you have employees, but also this relates to customers and vendors, communication skills are imperative. The three people I sold my business to, one of them is really, well, I shouldn't say that. They're all good at communication. But one of them is really, really good with employee uh, communication. He loves people, wants to help people, grow people. And so that was to me the perfect fit. And I saw it over the years as when he was a leader with the company and then as an owner. So that communication is imperative, especially when you're going through the business succession, that transition. Communication with the employees and with each other is imperative. So that communication style, if you have somebody that's buying your business and they can't maybe articulate what they're thinking or their thoughts and things, maybe they're not the right fit because you have to live with that for in as many years as you're going to go through succession. They're going to be your partner. They're going to be, you have to deal with that. So, and long term, you want them to be able to communicate well with people. And then you want to have people or person that is willing to help you with the plan and the succession plan and be able to walk that plan with you. This is huge. And it kind of rolls back up into some of the points that I said before. Communication, they have the same core value. They, are able to understand what it means to be a leader. So the people that are buying your business should be involved in that succession planning. With me, I did the plan. I had worked with my CPA and attorney, and we came up with a plan. But ultimately, it was a group, the four of us on the leadership owner team that decided what that plan was going to look like. And the plan is not only financial, but it's also what's going to take us from here to here, from A to Z. What is that going to be? Where are we struggling? And like I said, the guys that bought my business, I felt like they needed leadership training. And so we figured that out together, what that was going to look like. So those are the pieces that I saw when I started to sell my business and deciding who the successors should be. And I'm hoping this list was really beneficial for you also, as it was for me.